Hey, what's going on everyone? Axel here. So today we're going to do a video going over my main character's build. It's been almost 2 years since I've done a video on my build, so we're going to go through what I'm doing currently on this character as of update 57, what I'm doing in terms of feats, build selection, enhancements, split, all those things. So there's been quite a bit that's changed, and also quite a bit that has stayed the same over the years for this character. So let's just go through it. The only thing I'm not going to go through in this video is in-game gear set. I whenever I get that together, I'll probably do a separate video on that, but it's not ready currently and may not be anytime soon. All right, so let's just start from the top. A lot of this stuff I may repeat a bit from my video from 2 years ago, but again, a lot of this has changed. So we're just gonna go through everything starting from scratch here. Okay, so this build, if you're not familiar with the main character I run, it's a melee cleric, and the goal of it is to have as much DPS as it can, while at the same time still being a fully capable party healer in Reaper and in raids, really any Skull Reaper. I've played this character, soul healing raids. I've healed just fine up to R10. It really is a fun character to play because you really can play it in any content. It's not going to be a top tier build. It definitely is not, but it's a very viable build. So the build uses Falconry Tree with Wisdom to hit and damage and CC from Falconry attacks, the blindness on Falconry attacks, with a focus on two-handed fighting using Sylvanas with Mauls. So Sylvanas is a religious feat that only certain, and we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it's a feat only certain iconic characters from Forgotten Realms can take, and it gives you +2 critical threat range bonus with Mauls, in addition to some extra hit and damage with Mauls and other enhancements. Okay, so let's go to Split. So Split, I'm still playing this as a pure Cleric, just pure 20 Cleric. So why pure? So basically the reason is it boils down to a few things. So one, all my build points go into Falconry, Radiant Servant, and Vistani. So say if I was to splash like Paladin or something or Fighter, there's really no extra points to spare for those trees. And also Pure Cleric gives you access to the Radiant Servant Capstone. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. It gives you +4 Wisdom, and every 5th healing spell does maximum healing. So it's nice. Definitely, this is just my preference. You definitely could splash if you want to. Staying Pure gives you some more caster levels and spell points in addition, which is a nice perk. But there are certainly viable alternatives that are just fine, like splashing Paladin or Fighter. Fighter, you could splash a level Fighter, get an extra feat, cheaper access to haste boost than you would, say, getting it through the Vistani Universal Enhancement Tree. But I like staying pure. So there are other build options. So other build options, I see like a popular one you see a lot of melee clerics run is like 17 cleric, 3 paladin, and that's more of a defensive build, which is really not this build's goal. This build is a healing cleric, yes, but it also is a two-handed fighting melee DPS character as well. So it's not you're not going to spend your points in, say, like the Sacred Defender or any kind of more defensive oriented build choices like Shield Mastery. You're not going to be using like a shield at all with this build. This is a two-handed fighting build. So the thing you have to know about this build is, while I'm not a big fan of healbots because I don't think in 99% of situations it's necessary. This build, I've healed with this build in raids just fine, up to R10 just fine. The only thing this build is going to take a hit in regard when you're healing, particularly like high skull content, in regards to a heal bot, is you're not going to be able to take as many hits because heal bots will be putting more of their focus on survivability, whereas this build is going to take the points you would spend in survivability and feat choices and such and put those towards DPS. So the margin of error is lower. So this character, if you're playing it in high skull and such, it's going to be harder to play, I would say, than a heal bot. So just keep that in mind, but it doesn't mean it's not effective as a healer. It's plenty capable of healing any content, just like a heal bot would. Maybe heal bots are a little bit better at healing, but it's really not relevant because this build has plenty enough healing capability to serve the role in any Reaper content or any raid. The only exception I would say is if you are in a guild, like a really top guild that's running that's really pushing skulls in raids, then at that point you could argue that the survivability you get from going healbot is worth giving up the DPS. But I think in 99% of situations, unless you are really building something strictly as a healer for like high skull raids and such, this build is perfectly fine to heal in any content. So you really don't need the extra healing from healbots. So that's why I like this build over healbots. And plus healbots are boring. You most of the time in DDO you just aren't gonna have a lot to do as a healbot. Okay, so anyways, let's go ahead and continue with the race choice here. So race choice is a little bit limited. You have to play an iconic with this build because only, as I mentioned before, only certain iconics have access to the Sylvanas deity feat, which this build revolves around. So your only choices are Purple Dragonite, Scourge, Shatterkai, and Deep Gnome. Those are the only 4 races that have access to Sylvanas. And of those 4, the only 2 that really make sense is PDK and Asmar Scourge. So I would pick one of those. I think in terms of viability, they are pretty close. So as I've written here, PDK and Asmar Scourge are the 2 best choices, as they can both take Sylvanas, and they both have some nice low-hanging fruit in their enhancement trees. Both do require you, however, to take a lesser Heart of Wood. That's the other thing I need to mention here with this build is you probably need to buy a +1 lesser heart, although if you run PDK, you don't have to. You could optionally choose to keep the fighter level and go like 19 cleric, 1 fighter, or 18 cleric, 2 fighter if you want. If you choose to do that, you'll obviously miss out on the Radiant Servant capstone, but you'll get some extra feats. You'll get access to Kensei, so you can get like haste boost for a cheaper number of action points, and then if you were to get it through the Vistana Universal Tree. So that's an option if you want it. But anyways, about the as going back now to the races that you can select here. So PDK, Scourge, Shatterkai, and Deep Gnome are the only ones that you can use with Sylvanas. As far as PDK and Scourge, which one is better? I think PDK is better if you don't have a lot of racial past lives, because you'll get that free feat for nothing. So PDK, just like human, gets an extra feat, whereas Scourge doesn't. Now Scourge, Asmar Scourge, does get the +2 extra rank of Wisdom over PDK, so that's a nice bonus. Plus, the Asmar Scourge, in my opinion, tree is just better than the Purple Dragonite tree. So if you have done a lot of racial past lives, I think at that point, Asmar Scourge may be better, because you can spend your whatever number of racial action points you've gotten, like 6, 7, whatever, you'll be able to spend that in a better tree. So it's really up to you what you want to pick. I prefer Purple Dragonite because I've not done any racial past lives, so it just makes sense for me, and I end up not spending, as we'll see later, any points in racial trees. The other 2 race choices, so Deep Gnome. Deep Gnome's actually a wisdom-based race, so Deep Gnome's fine. Like, you could run Deep Gnome. I think the Asmar Scourge tree does fit this build better, in my opinion, so I don't really see any reason to go with Deep Gnome. Plus, Deep Gnome, you take the strength penalty -2 and then -2 charisma penalty, which are both 2 stats that this build needs. Strength you're going to need on this build. Even though this is a wisdom-based build, you need strength in order to meet feat requirements for certain melee feats. And then charisma doesn't really matter that much on this build. It just gives you extra Radiant Servant turns, but it's something that you lose. So I don't really see any point in going Deep Gnome over Asmar Scourge unless you just like it for flavor or you need that particular iconic past life feat. Shatterkai, also definitely the 4th choice here. You technically could choose it, since it does have access to Sylvanas, but there's really no reason to pick it. The tree doesn't really have any synergy with this build, nor does using the chain stuff, which requires a light weapon, and this build is going to be using 2-handed weapons, so it doesn't really make any sense to go Shatterkai. All right, so starting stats here. So with the stats, I'm not going to go into great detail here, as we'll talk about in a second, because it depends on what strength tome that you have. So, but with your stats is a wisdom-based character, so you want to max wisdom. Wisdom is going to be what we use for to hit and damage. Our spell points are, well, we don't really care about spell DCs because we're not an offensive caster, but that does factor into our spell DCs, but it does more importantly factor into our DCs for our falconry attacks. So wisdom by far our most important stat here, so you want to max that. The next priority is con. So obviously just for hit points and such, I end up just playing this character basically as a 2-stat character. When I run this character, I max wisdom and I max constitution, and I take just a little bit of strength to what I need to meet feat requirements. But again, I'm not listing the exact split because it's going to depend entirely on what tome you have. So this is very, very important if you're running this build. That's why I bolded it here. You need certain amounts of strength in order to take these essential melee feats. So you need 13 base strength to take power attack, 15 to take 2-handed fighting, and 17 to take improved 2-handed fighting and greater 2-handed fighting. So when I say base strength, if you're a new player and you're not familiar with this, that means the your stat plus any tomes you have. So this can also take into account stats you take as you level up, but it does not factor into, like, say, your any stats that adds to your character from gear. So you have to make sure you have enough base strength and character creation to meet the requirements for this. And if you don't have, say, like any tomes at all, you're going to need to make sure you get at least, I would say, like 15 strength, because you're going to need to get to 17 eventually. And maybe a +2 tome, getting a +2 strength tome is very reasonable, at least from favor or something. Is going to be very reasonable to get. But you need to get, at the end of the day, before you take the last greater two-handed fight, or before you get to improved two-handed fighting, you need to have 17 strength. However you want to manage that, just make sure you do that. All right, so skills, heal, UMD, jump, pretty obvious choices. Skills aren't that important for this build. Heal is just a no-brainer for positive spell power. UMD is just essential for convenience. Most notably teleport scrolls, but also you might want to use like G8 scrolls or some other kind of scroll as a buff, say like blur wands and such as well. Jump, you just want to make sure you take enough to get to 40. 40 is the jump cap if you're not aware. So any more after 40 really doesn't help you at all. So just aim to take enough jumps so that when you apply your jump item, you get to 40. Maybe you want more minus your jump item just so you can jump in and out of mobs easier. It's kind of up to you, but just note that taking more than 40 doesn't make sense because it doesn't do anything extra. After that, any extra points for a fourth skill, I end up putting it into just diplomacy, I think, just for the skill checks in quests. It can be nice for certain quests that do have diplomacy skill checks, but I don't actually use that skill actively in combat ever. You can also take haggle, maybe spot, something like that, but whatever you want for the fourth skill. It's really not that important. Okay, alignment. This is one thing that's really changed from previous incarnations of this build. So the alignment I'm using right now is chaotic neutral, and the reason for this is some of the recent changes they made to Fury of the Wild and the Harbinger of Chaos feat. So being chaotic means that you get bonus imbue dice from the Harbinger of Chaos feat, and you also get an extra 10 PRR and 50 hit points from the Scarred by Chaos enhancement, which is in Tier 5 Fury of the Wild Epic Destiny tree, which we are going to be taking Tier 5 Fury of the Wild on this build. So you really could take chaotic neutral or chaotic good. It doesn't really matter that much. Just make sure you're chaotic. I went with neutral over good just to be immune to any type of damage that would be specifically from monsters towards good aligned characters. But if you have a specific reason you want to go good, you could go chaotic good. It really doesn't matter that much. But you just make sure you're chaotic. Okay, so next we'll go over some of the feats. Some of these have changed from previous incarnations of the build. Very important disclaimer, which I did put stars around in bold on the forum thread post, which again, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'll link that below in the description. But this order assumes you're starting at level 15 as an iconic, because as I said before, you're going to be running this build on an iconic. It doesn't make any sense to run this character on a non-iconic because you can't take Sylvanas, so there's no point in using Mauls. At that point, I would completely rearrange the build if you want to use something other than the 4 races I've mentioned. Just because you'll probably want to take, like, say, like Knight's Training, two-handed fighting. You'll want to do something along those lines instead of Sylvanas. So in this build, you will start at level 15. Now, the only way you would start at level 1 is one of these races is if you are running this on hardcore. So I didn't rearrange. I didn't put this in the post. I didn't put the feats here with that in mind. You'll need to rearrange some things if the feat, or just the feat order, if you are running this on hardcore starting at level 1, because you'll want to take some of these melee feats earlier than I've taken here if you're starting at level 1, obviously. So as a result of that as well, in order to take those feats earlier, you'll want to take more strength at character creation so you can meet those requirements, again tying back to needing 17 total base strength. Also, if you're Scourge, I would just drop the Empower feat here in the selection, but you could drop a different feat if you feel like you want to drop something else, but Empower is what I would drop personally if I was running Scourge. Scourge, again, getting 1 less feat than Purple Dragon Knight, but this feat selection here does reflect what I take on a Purple Dragon Knight. Okay, so let's go through some of the feats. I'm not going to go through every single thing here, but we'll go over some of these. So let's see. As you can see here in this build selection, again, this would make zero sense if you were leveling from level 1. Like, I would never take the meta magics this early. I would obviously want the melee stuff like power attack, two-handed fighting, and such earlier if I was to level this from level 1. But the reason I've not done that here is because of the strength requirements on this build. When you're starting at level 15, it doesn't matter that you take the meta magics earlier because you're not playing at low levels anyway. So it doesn't matter that you don't have the melee feats that early. And starting at level 15 or 20 for epic reincarnations, starting that late, you want to go ahead and on this build take the meta magic stuffs early. That way you can put off taking the melee feats. The melee feats, the reason you want to put them off is the melee feats have the strength requirements. So putting them off means that you have more time for your strength tome to kick in, because you can check the wiki for this, but at certain levels you get greater bonuses from your tomes. It's not like if you have a +8 tome, it doesn't all apply at level 1. They apply slowly at different level gates as you level up. So putting off the melee feats means I don't need to worry about that, and as a result, I can dump strength at character creation because I'm not taking the combat feats until later. Well, I'm not dump strength, but I can take less strength at character creation because I don't need the strength up front at low levels in order to meet those feat requirements. Okay, so yeah, so that's why this is arranged like it is. I know I had to really put a disclaimer here because I know I'm going to get questions about this. But again, this is not intended as a feat order to start from level 1 at all. This assumes you start at level 15 or level 20 for an epic reincarnation, but at least at level 15. If you are starting at level 1 on hardcore, you will want to use the character build, like Matrum's character builder and character planner, and rework this to make sure that you take some of these combat feats earlier. Like, you're going to want to take two-handed fighting, power attack, and such earlier. If you're going to start from level 1, and you're going to want to make sure that your base strength is high enough to get those feats. So you have to do a little bit planning if you're starting at level 1 on hardcore with this build, but everyone else should be able to pretty much follow this, just keeping in mind to have these minimum requirements for the combat feats whenever you do end up taking them. So you still might want to run this through Matrum's character planner if you're planning to run this build, just to make sure you don't screw anything up. But if you do screw something up along the way, and say you get to a level and you realize you don't have enough strength, you could always in a pinch, even though it won't be optimal, you could switch out one of these wisdom level ups for a strength level up, like if you had to. But hopefully you don't do that, which is why I recommend running this through a builder. But in this example here, I do have a +8 Supreme Tome, so I have a +8 Strength Tome applying as I take these feats in as I level up. So some of the more important ones, let's see here. A lot of these are pretty much no-brainer. So on this character, we're going to take the two-handed fighting line. Obviously, every two-handed fighting feat we're going to take, being a two-handed fighting character. You're going to take certain feats that you want for healing. So like Empower Healing Spell is obvious. That's a mandatory feat. Quicken Spell, mandatory for any caster. Now, I'm obviously taking Power Attack on this build. Now, there is an argument to take Precision on this build, but I don't. The reason I don't is because that would mean I would have to meet Dex requirements for Precision. It would obviously take another feat. And also, this character gets tons of Fortification Bypass already, so you don't necessarily need it. The good thing you would get from Precision is extra to hit, which this build does struggle a little bit in the to hit department, but I still don't take it because it's just, yeah, for those reasons. But essentially that's why. But it certainly is viable if you want to take it in addition to power attack and kind of switch on and off. Like, you could put Precision on for like bosses or high AC mobs, particularly at endgame. A lot of the Isle of Dread, like red names and mini bosses and red names and such, have a lot of AC, so it certainly is viable. I don't take it, but it is something worthy considering. For me, I just take power attack. Let's see, you want to make sure your improved critical is bludgeoning. Again, we're using mauls. Don't screw that up and take, say, like slashing by mistake. Let's see. A lot of these are, again, are no-brainers. No overwhelming critical for better crit profile and epics. Now, a lot of the I do take a ton of meta magic, so that's another question. A lot of people, well, not a lot, but I've had some people bring up. So I take Intensify, Empower, Maximize, Quicken, and Empower Healing. The reason is all these can be applied to your Radiant Servant Burst, and Radiant Servant Burst is a little bit weak in terms of how much it heals, so you really need all this stuff. You can't apply all these meta magics, including Empower, Intensify, all this stuff you can't apply to your Radiant Servant Burst. So that's the main reason for feats like Empower. You could certainly get it by without them, but I prefer having them, and there really isn't a lot of other compelling feats to take in, other than maybe Precision, in place of these. So that's why I take that. Harbinger of Chaos we've talked about already. Beloved of the Divine adds some extra to hit and damage. Crush weakness, extra helplessness damage, where you get quite a bit on this build, where this build really is designed to play in groups. So preferably to get your helplessness damage, you're going to have like a wizard or someone who's going to be doing some CC along the way. So that's where you get to really take advantage of your helplessness damage is grouping with other people. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it, guys. If you have a particular question on a feat, you can comment below. I'll try to answer it if I can, or you can comment in this thread and I'll try to answer it if I can, if I can get to it. Okay, so domain is a no-brainer. War domain is the obvious choice. War domain gives the Holy Sword SLA, so that gives you an additional +1 critical damage range and critical damage multiplier to your mauls. So that's a really obvious choice of domain because it's going to be the best for increasing your melee DPS. You don't need to take, say, something like healing domain to increase your healing on this build. You get plenty enough healing already to serve as a party healer in basically any situation. All right, so don't worry about doing that. That domain is quite a trap. There's really no other viable alternatives. You should take war domain on this character. Okay, let's get into heroic enhancements. So here's a picture of what I have currently. So I guess to go over the basics here, you take tier 5 Radiant Servant. The main reason for that is no max caster levels on your cure spells. Really nice for like your second core here, Radiant Servant, cure moderate wounds SLA. Any mass cure, this is really nice. So it's really nice to have no max caster levels on your cure spells, but also you also get Radiant Servant Aura, which, you know, is not amazing these days. But I still really like it, and it's still a really nice form of passive healing. It's still a weaker version of, say, like the Exalted Angel Mantle Heal, but essentially, and they should buff it. Like, I wish they would make it permanent, but it's still something worth taking tier 5 for. Also, if you're going to take, you also get Radiance, which is a really nice this here in the middle here of tier 5. Radiance is a really nice clicky there. It's basically it gets you out of CC. It applies I believe greater restore to everyone in your party. It's a really nice, regardless of range, by the way. They can be anywhere in the map and benefit from that. So Radiance is a really nice clicky as well as you get Divine Energy Resistance, saving you some points from having to take that, say, in like I think in Sentinel, which we do use a Sentinel tree, but you don't have to take it in Sentinel. You can use it here. And plus, being pure, you know, we get all the cores. We get the top core here, the capstone, which I've already talked about. Let's see. So Radiant Servant, you know, that's our bread and butter. We get Radiant Servant Burst as well. You know, the Cure Moderate Wounds SLA. A lot of good stuff here for healing, and this is the primary fuel of our healer abilities in the game. All right, it's taking this Radiant Servant tree. And if you don't go tier 5 Radiant Servant, I know it's a lot. There is a good argument, say for going tier 5 Falconry instead of tier 5 Radiant Servant. But at that point, I don't really know why you want to run a Cleric at that point. I feel like my belief has always been that if you're not going to go tier 5 Radiant Servant, I don't really see the point of playing a Cleric. I personally, if I was not going to go tier 5 Radiant Servant, I would probably just play a Paladin instead if I was going to go tier 5 Falconry. So yeah, that's just my opinion. I would go a different class if I was going to not go tier 5 Radiant Servant. So if you're going to play a Cleric, I say go tier 5 Radiant Servant, or just play something else. That's the same way I feel with like Deep Splash just for this build. If you're going to splash like more than 3 levels on this character, I don't really know of a good reason to go Cleric really at all. I mean, maybe there's some reasons utilizing some domains, but for the most part, I would say go like Paladin if you're going to splash tons or not take tier 5 Radiant Servant. Just because healing is the best thing Clerics do. Like, that's what Clerics are best at. So if you're not going to take advantage of that, you know, why not just go a different class? All right, so next we'll talk about Falconry. So Falconry is kind of our other main tree. We're going up to tier 4, taking pretty much everything in tier 4. So Falconry gives wisdom to hit and damage. Again, this build's wisdom based. A couple things to keep in mind. So in Falconry, as of the making of this video, there is a bug. So you don't need to take so right here in tier 2, this enhancement is supposed to give you to hit with wisdom, and this enhancement in tier 3 is supposed to give you to damage with wisdom. However, the tier 2 currently, or the tier 3, I'm sorry, the tier 3 currently gives you both to hit and damage. So keep that in mind. You can save an extra action point or so, but not wasting points in this tier 2 that you don't need. So Falconry, you know, this is kind of bread and butter for our DPS and crowd control here. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff here. You get great CC from this tree. You can blind enemies with Here in tier 4, you get an AoE blind, and tier 3, you get a single target blind. I don't take the one in tier 2. I just don't think it's necessary, especially with the recent buff to the cooldowns. I just don't think having 2 single targets really makes sense. Tier 4 in Falconry in particular is just amazing. You also get tons of fortification bypass from this tree. So you get minus 50% fort bypass in this tree. You get extra helplessness damage. So there's a lot of really good goodies here, really awesome goodies here, in addition to tiers 1, 2, and 3. So it makes a lot of sense to go Falconry. There's really no reason to use I don't use any points in War Priest, because War Priest is just basically the Falconry tree, but worse. I've done tons of videos on this in the past, but War Priest, unfortunately, is just a very weak tree currently, and has been for some time. There's just no reason to use it over Falconry at all. Maybe you could warrant maybe a splash in it, like maybe tier 2 or tier 3, but you should never invest into War Priest as your main tree. It's just too weak currently for any kind. That's just not for this build. That goes for any melee cleric at all. You just shouldn't use it at all, except for maybe, again, like a small splash. Like say maybe for Divine Might or something if you're charisma based, but it's really not worth it all using as a primary tree. Vistani is also really important, so you have to get haste boost on this build. That's mandatory. Haste boost is amazing. It's like the best action boost there is, basically. So you need to get it either here, or if you splash a fighter level, you can get it in tier 1 Kensei instead. Although there's some really nice stuff here in Vistani, though, that you can get along the way. So like deflect arrows, you get here, you get the cores. Cores are really nice as well. So you get some extra goodies here. So I use Vistani, plus I want to stay pure anyway, so I have to use Vistani. But that's kind of the basics for the basic methodology or what the reasoning for the enhancements I take here. All right, let's get into Epic Destiny enhancements. So this is what I'm taking currently for my Epic Destinies. So I did a video shortly after the Epic Destiny Pass came out where I gave my thoughts and opinions on Epic Destiny choices. Ignore that video. I've since completely changed my mind, and I'm going to actually, if I remember, I'm going to make a pinned comment on that video to this video. But yeah, I've completely changed my mind. I've done a lot of experimentation with the various destinies, and I've really spent quite a bit of time in all of them. I've used the Monk Destiny, Grandmaster Flowers quite a bit. Tried that as an alternative to Shadow Dancer or Sentinel. I've used the Divine Crusader tree as a primary tree, and I initially kind of liked it, but then I realized the more I played it that it really doesn't make any sense for this build. Because when they did the Epic Destiny Pass, they changed that tree quite a bit into what it is now, which is more of a shield user focused tree, in a tree focused on using Smite Evil and such, and it just doesn't synergize very well at all. There's also a lot of abilities in that tree, such as the base attack bonus, which doesn't stack with Divine Power, which we get as a spell. So it really doesn't make much sense, in my opinion, to use Divine Crusader. This is what I use currently. So Fury of the Wild as the primary tree, and then our other 2 trees, which have points split pretty evenly, Sentinel and Shadow Dancer. So Fury of the Wild, we can start talking about first. It's pretty much mandatory, I think, for any 2-handed fighting character at this point. Fury of the Wild's amazing. Adrenaline in particular is like ridiculously good. You cannot give up Adrenaline as your epic strike. It is just way too good. Like there's no argument. Like I like stuff like Consecrated Ground and Divine Crusader. I really like that ability, but you cannot pass up Adrenaline. Adrenaline's way too good. I mean, the damage you get from Adrenaline strikes is insanity. The addition to your DPS is just way too good to pass up. All right, so that's why we're going Fury of the Wild. Also, this stuff again just synergizes so well with 2-handed fighting. Tier 5 is amazing. The epic moment is really good. It gives you extra adrenaline charges. We get also this top enhancement here, which we talked about earlier, that synergizes with the Harbinger of Chaos feat. Then you get the standard, +1 critical bonus here in tier 5. But there's a lot of really good stuff in Fury of the Wild. I'm not going to talk about all of it, but yeah, that's the basics of Fury of the Wild. It's just super good for 2-handed fighting. Okay, Sentinel you have to take, in my opinion, on this build because it gets renewal, and renewal is just, it's way too good to pass up. Renewal fills a really good void as a healer, and we are a healer. We do want to be able to heal in any situation in a pinch on this build. So what it provides is an amazing pre-heal, so you can apply renewal and it will do a healing over time effect. It's also ridiculously SP efficient, so you can heal people forever with renewal. So when you take renewal, you'll have this as a pre-heal, which you don't have. Really, there are so few pre-heals, but there's so many situations where renewal is just vital. For example, if you're playing like High Reapers and your tank is going in to tank a Doom Reaper or something, you can throw renewal on him and give him pre-healing. You can also use renewal in conjunction, say if you're healing a tank in a raid, you can use renewal in conjunction with, say, like your Cure Moderate Wounds SLA, your heal spell, your aura burst, whatever else you're using to heal. You can use that in conjunction to do some pre-healing as you heal your tank with other spells. Plus, again, it just lets you heal a tank for forever. You really don't ever run out of spell points using renewal. It's ridiculously spell point efficient. So that's why I feel renewal is essential. It's just too good to pass up. Plus, you also get tons of synergy from Sentinel. So Sentinel gives us what else? I mean, a lot of nice offensive and survivability stuff. This Into the Fray enhancement in tier 3 is really nice. It gives you some nice defense and damage bonuses. So plus, the good thing about taking 3 melee trees is you get, for each core, you get an additional 5 melee power for every core you take in any melee Epic Destiny tree. So taking 2 melee trees means you get an extra 30 melee power just from the 6 cores I've taken here. So really, really nice. Let's talk about Shadow Dancer. So Shadow Dancer, the main reason you take Shadow Dancer is for the +6 Assassinate DCs from tier 1. We need Assassinate DCs on this build. You need the gear for that, because that's what falconry attacks are. They utilize Assassinate DC. They don't use any kind of tactical DC. They use Assassinate DCs for the blind. So you have to have really good Assassinate DCs, on this character. You want to have definitely over, say, like in game, you want to have definitely over 100 DC. So let's see. What else we want to talk about here? So Shadow Dancer gives you a lot of other good stuff that synergizes here. So like I was considering like other options, not really for Shadow Dancer. I've always wanted to take Shadow Dancer because of the Assassinate DCs, but say I think that the synergy here is really good in addition to the Assassinate DC though, and why I think it's better than, say, like taking like the other, like Crusader or the Monk tree. This stuff is just really nice. You get extra like 5% double strike in the tree. You get some sneak attack die. You get some other good stuff here. So really almost every enhancement here is useful, other than maybe the tier 1 for the extra spell points, but that's still kind of okay. You get a little universal spell power too. So that's really the only waste I think in this tree is the extra spell points, which we really don't need that much. But again, taking all 3 gives you a little bit of universal spell power, plus you kind of have to take this in order to get up to the tier 3 here. So yeah, that's maybe the only waste, but I really like the Shadow Dancer tree for this build up to tier 3 for those reasons. Tier 4 and above wouldn't really do much for us, so that's why we don't take that much. All right, so I know one thing people will ask about is the Exalted Angel Destiny. So I did go consider using that. However, the thing with the Exalted Angel Destiny is that the mantle is really nice. Particularly, you get the amazing aura, which the healing aura, especially on this character with the positive spell power that we get, is just off the charts. However, it's just too expensive to be worth it. You would have to give up too much in order to take up to tier 4. You'd have to give up your mantle and use that as your mantle, as opposed to, say, Fury of the Wilds mantle, or even a different mantle if you wanted to use like Shadow Dancer or Sentinels. But you would have to give up your mantle, and you would have to take up to tier 4. And there's just not enough synergy in that tree, and it's just too expensive to be worth it. I would love to have that aura on this character, but I don't need it personally. Like, I can heal completely fine in any Reaper skull level and raids without it. So it's just not completely essential. So that's why I don't take it. Would be amazing to have, but it's just, at the end of the day, it's too expensive to be worth it. It's too high in the tree. If it was lower in the tree, it wasn't tier 4, maybe we could consider like swapping out Shadow Dancer or something. But I don't think with expensive as it is currently and where it is in the tree, it's just not quite worth it. All right, so let's see. But what we have already, and this one thing I mentioned here, is Radiant Servant, being 17 Cleric for full Cleric spells, proper gearing, renewal, Radiant Servant burst and aura, all this stuff, high positive spell power. It makes us plenty capable enough to heal already. So we don't have to have that aura from Exalted Angel, nor would we want to even take, say, the other epic strikes in that tree, like the healing stuff, like Healing Pillar and such. I think that's what it's called, Healing Pillar and such, the epic strikes in that tree, because we don't need them, and they would clash with and put Adrenaline on cooldown. Adrenaline's, again, way too good to not to use. Divine Crusader, I don't have too much to say about that, but I did try it out. But at the end of the day, as I mentioned before, it doesn't really synergize with this build that much from where they went to a different direction with the Epic Destiny Pass, making it more shield focused, making it focus more on Smite Evil, things that we really don't like. Smite Evil, I really don't have the hotbar real estate for it, nor is it really the tree really synergizes well as the other two here. But yeah, it just doesn't quite fit. Doesn't really fit this build. Even though I love something like Consecration, I'm not going to give up my Adrenaline for Consecrated Ground. Okay, so Reaper enhancements here. I have 43 Reaper points as of the making of this video, and this is what I've taken currently. So, a couple things to keep in mind with Reaper trees. The main thing on this build to keep in mind is you want to get this this Reaper bonus here for I think it's 30% double strike here in Tier 1 Dread Adversary as soon as you can, because you can use that with in conjunction with haste boost on this build, and they don't share a cooldown. So the Reaper boost here does not share a cooldown with action boost. So you can use this together with haste boost. And I know once I apply this, I have over 100%. I reach 100% double strike. So it's pretty amazing having that with haste boost for a nice burst DPS. The other thing to keep in mind, after you get that 30% double strike Reaper boost from Dread Adversary, you want to focus on Grim Barricade, just because the things to keep in mind is the second and higher cores apply outside of Reaper mode even, and there's just so many extra hit points from Grim Barricade, and we do need the survivability boost on this character because we are lacking a bit in the survivability department. So this, combined with things like Primal Past Lives, really can get us more hit points that really do help with survivability. So we're going to need boost from hit points, especially to survive like the higher Reapers and such. We really need the extra hit points from, say, like Grim Barricade and Primal Past Lives and things. They really help a lot, because we're just not investing too much in survivability on this build. So we have to get those hit points from somewhere. It's not to say like if you don't have any Reaper points, you can't do fine on this build. You certainly can, but it really helps when you start running like mid skulls and high skulls. Having the extra survivability helps, especially from the cores here that apply outside of Reaper. All right, so that's why I take what I take currently in Reaper enhancements. Hopefully at some point I can get my Reaper wings and take more melee power and such from the Dread Adversary tree. But for now, I decided to take more in Grim Barricade, and that's where I focus, just because the bonuses there are so good compared to the relatively minor stuff from the cores. And yeah, extra melee power is pretty good from here, but compared to hundreds of hit points you get from Grim Barricade, it's not quite worth it, in my opinion. The cores don't really help us too much overall, since there's not like, say, like a wisdom option here. And there's some other reasons for that too. All right, let's talk about past lives now. So past lives, not required on the build. It is first life friendly, but obviously help. But it's not like, say, we're playing like an offensive caster where you really have to have past lives to get, say, like spell penetration or extra DCs. We don't really care about any of that. So that makes this build more first life friendly than others. But the most important ones, if you do go for past lives, most important one is definitely going to be your 3 times Marshal epic past lives for 9% double strike. Just a really nice DPS boost there. After that, you can get more epic past lives like Primal Past Lives, as mentioned before, to give you extra hit points. Really, really nice. I think overall, when you start grinding past lives, if you're playing this build and want to grind past lives, I would prioritize your epic ones at first, your epic past lives. They're really fast. There's a lot of upfront power compared to, say, racial past lives that are a lot more backloaded. You get a lot of upfront power boosts. You can get extra fate points that turn into extra epic destiny points and such. So there's a lot to be gained there, especially if you are going to stay and mainly play this character in epics as a long-term, your long-term goal is to like stay at in game. As far as heroic past lives, the ones I've listed here, so like Paladin, Sacred Fists, for extra healing amp and extra extra, like I think Sacred Fist might give some extra positive spell power as well, and Fighter is good too to get you extra to hit. Those are kind of the most important ones. Also, Barbarian past lives for extra hit points, always going to be nice as well. But those are the ones I'd prioritize if you want to prioritize heroic past lives. But they aren't as I would definitely go for epic past lives and even racial past lives before I would really dive into heroic past lives or even iconic past lives. So with iconic past lives, Asmar Scourge gives you I think 2% double strike for each for the active for each past life. So 6% double strike from 3 Scourge past lives is really nice. You can only have one iconic past life stance active at any one time, so just keep that aware. Be aware of that. Razor Claw Shifter has extra hit and damage. I believe that's on their active past life, so that's another option. But those are probably the two ones I would choose from. If I was going to go for iconic past lives, currently I don't have it. I actually do I have any? I think I might have a purple dragonite past life. Yeah, I think I have one PDK past life, but I haven't really gotten into the iconic past life grind. Racial past lives. We've mentioned before that racial past lives are really going to make Asmar Scourge a more viable choice over PDK eventually. Like if you have full racial past lives and you have tons of extra racial enhancement points, that's going to make Asmar Scourge a really nice choice. And if I had full racial past lives, like all those done, I would probably go Asmar Scourge over Purple Dragonite. Um, so yeah, those are really nice. Obviously for the extra racial past lives, if you must grind out a few of them, I would definitely prioritize Human and Azamar to get the extra wisdom. Obviously, wisdom being so important for this build, get the extra rank or wisdom would be nice. But racial past lives, I don't think are nearly as good in terms of your time invested because they're so backloaded. That I again would, if you wanted to grind past lives on this, I would definitely go for your epic ones first and prioritize that before you go to your racials. So what playstyle? So playstyle is this is a more difficult character to play than say a heal bot, or well, I don't know if I'd go as far to say it's harder to play than a caster cleric, but it's definitely harder to play than a heal bot just because you're not going to have as good of survivability as a heal bot. In addition to that, you're going to be upfront meleeing. So you, particularly when you're playing in high skulls, it really helps to have a tank that can take care and absorb the aggro because you're not going to be able to take tons of hits on this build. You're not super tanky, so you really need, say, like having a crowd control person, so like a wizard or something, or like an earthquake druid or someone who can take care of the mobs, so you're not getting hit too much. And a tank to absorb aggro really makes this character a lot better, and it really shines in that kind of group setting. So just keep in mind you do want to melee to utilize your DPS and contribute to a group in that regard, but you can't melee so much to where you are really hitting that being a representative of the bad battle cleric stereotype where you go up and melee and die when you should be healing. So you just have to balance that, and that's just something that takes experience. So you got to know when you can melee, when you should lay off a little bit and focus on healing. You got to really, as you play, you have to kind of learn to keep one eye on the hot bars at all times. You can't really lose yourself too much in meleeing and not pay attention to party members that need healing. So there may be situations where it's just too difficult or it's too dangerous for you to be there in their meleeing because the group needs your healing, and you may just need to stand back and just heal the tank or just heal the off tank or the off tank DPS or whatever. It really depends. The way you play this character really depends on who you're grouping with. And it really is a build that shines best when you're playing with groups. If you want to solo, I probably would make some change. I would definitely make some changes to this build. Like I wouldn't take if I was only soloing. I probably would just go maybe like tier 5. I probably wouldn't even play this build. Honestly, I'd probably just play if I was going to strictly solo, I'd just play a paladin, but a 250 paladin. But if I was going to play this build solo, I'd probably go tier 5 falconry instead of tier 5 radiant servant. That's probably the main change I'd make to the build, just because group healing obviously wouldn't be as important since you would be soloing, and having the tier 5 falconry stuff would be really nice. But yeah, it's a really fun build, guys. I would really urge you to give it a shot. It's not going to be like a build it's not one of the top builds in the meta. You're not going to be soloing R10s, but you can certainly be viable in R10 groups. I've run them plenty, but you got to make sure that you need to gear yourself well you do need to probably, well, you don't have to get past lives, but if you're going to play like high school stuff, it really helps to get past lives and to get Reaper points. I wouldn't play like high skulls on this character until I got a decent number of Reaper points. Um, as I played this character over the years, I've just slowly, as I've accumulated more past lives and more Reaper points, I've slowly gone up in skulls, and I've gotten to the point now where as long as I have like some competent players with me, someone to help with the, really just someone to help with the aggro, since this character really can't tank too many hits on the high skulls. As long as I have people that can help with the aggro, so whether that's a tank or a crowd control person or both, this character does really nice in Reaper 10s. I mean, it can definitely provide a lot of value to a group, providing some second second tier DPS, really help out in the DPS department, but also serve as the party healer to heal a group in high skulls. So it certainly is very viable. Okay, now I don't know when I'll have it together, but I would like to do another video on top of this one going over the in-game gear set, but I don't have it ready as of now. So I want to at some point, I don't know when, but whenever I can get the gear Tetris done and get everything together for a new gear set, I would like to do another video. So guys, that's going to be it for this video. I will link again the forum post below. It's the same thread I've had for years. If you've got any questions, post them to the Dito.com forums in this thread. I'll try to answer them if I can. Same with YouTube. I'll answer your comments if I can. I try to answer every comment. Sometimes I don't have time, but if I can, I'll try to answer your comment. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see y'all next time. Have a good one. Take care.